Never caught in the moment, on my toes for the right now. My nigga, I'm focused, never follow the crowd. Let me throw on my crown. And motherfucker, you address me as such, cause I'm king. And put respect on my name like Brian Williams, And if you lucky, might have mercy, just might keep your neck. Cause heads roll for less. If playing me is your goal, I'm Shaquille at the net. Niggas know I'm a problem, carry hope on my chest, yeah. Look, I was tired of playing Clark Kent, hiding my potential, knowing that I was God sent, knew that I was different when nobody saw my vision, put that work in myself and then ran ahead of the competition.
What up, baby? You already know who it is. It's the one and only Mr. Vega, the Messiah. Welcome back to another edition of Moment with the Messiah, being brought to you by Honest Assholes. Thank you. I want to take this time out to thank everybody that's been supporting us. I want to give a special shout out to the crew, to the team. Shout out to Big Mizzle. Shout out to D-Nut. Shout out to Eugene O'Neill. Shout out to my #1 engineer, my boy Dank Sinatra. He is the reason why I'm still motivated. My setup is different. Got my equipment, and I'm not even finished yet. Like, man, this whole platform is finna go to a whole nother level. Like, y'all have no idea how focused I am this year on my show, my platform, podcast, all that shit. Because I'm awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, you heard it. I am. And so is this platform. So again, shout out to everyone that's been rocking with us. We've been going on for 5 years now. Almost 5 years. This May will be 5 years. And look where we are now. You know, been going to mad events. Had a lot of people on my show. I'm getting so much better at what I do because this is what I love to do. This is my passion. And I'm going to continue to do it because I love doing what I'm doing. So again, thank you all. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Twitch. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Audios is on Spotify and Apple Music. We everywhere. Honest Assholes, baby. Now, back to this thing that we call Moment with the Messiah. This is my precious baby. You know, y'all know how much I love my Moment with the Messiah because I kill it every single time. Yes, I do. And I've had so many people on. I've had celebrities, comedians, actors, rappers, adult stars, etc., etc. I don't discriminate. I talk to everyone. I give everybody their moment, and I do what others don't do, and that's just to get the positive vibes and energy out, especially to my guests. I want them to open up to their fans on a whole nother level, stuff that they didn't know about them. So that's just what Moment with the Messiah is all about. So with that being said, I want to bring in tonight's guest. First and foremost, I want to congratulate her. Well, not even congratulate. I just want to thank her for just being so patient with me. We've been trying to do this interview for quite some time now, but she's been very patient with me. She's very respectful. And I love everything that she does. I watch her stories. I watch her pages. So without further ado, please welcome tonight's guest, the one and only actress, Cynda Williams. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I want to tell you guys, I know this, I do these kind of things all the time on my platforms, but my name is spelled Cynda, Cynda.
Yes.
Yeah. Cynda.
Yes. I was just so excited, you know, when I put it together. I was just like, okay,
yeah.
Sure. Because
I mean, I think you have to spell things out because so many people have different names that are spelled different ways, you know. So
yeah, definitely.
It's wise to spell it out anyway.
And a whole bunch of people, like, I should know about that because a lot of people think my first name is Vincent, but you know, it's Vince, but it's short for something else. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. But again, I want to first and foremost, did you like the intro? Was it good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I got this new thing that I'm doing, so I want to make sure my guests is having, you know, start off good. So I want to thank you for coming out. You've been very patient with me. I'm actually glad that you've been patient because I was still working with my engineer, Dank Sinatra, shout out. but you know, he has a busy schedule too, and that's really
Mhm.
what it was. Our schedules really couldn't
Yeah,
intertwine. So
I
I'm
get
glad.
it.
So now I have my own stuff, my own equipment and everything.
Very
Here,
nice.
here we are. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So again, I want to thank you for coming out. Now, those of you that don't know who this sister is, she is an actor. I mean, actress. I'm sorry. And y'all know how I feel about movies and music. Like, I remember movies from when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and a lot of movies I consider classics now. Of This woman was in one of my favorite Spike Lee movies, Mo Better Blues. I love that movie so much because, you know, my first movie I actually seen from Spike Lee was Do the Right Thing. I actually had to go back and watch School Days when I got older. But I remember when Mo Better Blues hit the scene. It was 1990. I think I was between 5 or 6. I just remember just seeing that commercial, seeing Spike Lee with that hat, and my parents, you know, especially my mom, you know, she loves Denzel. So when it was time for that movie to come out, it was time to go see it. So
Mhm.
so that's why
Mhm.
when I got in contact with you, I was like real excited because I'm like, okay, yeah, she was in one of my favorite movies. So you ready for your moment with the Messiah? I don't want to keep talking. This is your moment.
Oh, sure. I sure am. I hope you can't hear my dog. She's going or he's going crazy. But I'm at home, so there you go.
He's probably jealous. You over here showing me attention on the show, so he's probably jealous. I get that. I'm
Always
sorry.
trying to be heard. So
Uh,
vocal.
that is too funny. So let's get
Mhm.
up. Let's get up in this. You know, 'cause I came up with some nice questions. You know, doing my research, so I think everything's pretty accurate. So my first question to you: You started your acting career in 1990, and since then you've been in over 40 films since your debut. Not to mention, you know, as I spoke earlier, you were in Mo Better Blues, your very first movie, and it was with Spike Lee. So first of all, I just want to know, how did you land that role, and what was it like to work with the young Spike Lee? This guy, I believe this was like his third film at the time. You know, he had his School Days, he had that Do the Right Thing, and it was so many talented actors in that movie that started their careers. Besides Denzel, Wesley Snipes, of course Spike Lee, um, John Turturro, and you were just around so many of these like big names, you know. So the question I gotta ask for you, like, what was that experience like for you, especially being young and that being your first movie?
Well, first of all, I started acting many, many years before that. That's just my first movie. I was a
Yes.
stage actress, a lot of regional theater. I'd been studying acting truly by then by like 8, 9 years. So I'd been doing it for a long time. I've been, you know, honing my craft in theater for the most part. I didn't have any expectation of doing a film. That wasn't in my plans. It wasn't my background. I didn't even watch movies really because I was always doing a play. I was always in church and just always creating myself. I'm a singer also, so I was always singing. And so it wasn't new for me to act, but it was new for me to act in this medium. Um One more correction, I've been in over 90 projects.
Oh,
So
I was going off of the internet. I'm sorry, they didn't give
N
me
no, that's okay.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. If you go to IMDb, if you go to other there, I mean, maybe 40 people have seen, you know, not everybody's seen all the stuff I've done. I've done stuff for other countries and I've you know, so
Oh,
I've been very fortunate in my career, but a lot of independent work. And so on the level of a Mo Better Blues, there were few, but most of my movies were independent. But when I remember when I started, I was young. I was 23 when I did. It was right out of college. I moved to New York City. I got an off Broadway show right away, and then I got this movie right pretty much within the year of being there. But all the other actors in it, by then, Denzel, he had shot Glory, but it hadn't come out yet. He had done just a few other projects. He had been in a television show. He had been in one movie. Was Stephen? No, not Stephen. I can't remember the name of the actor that he played. He played like a mixed kid, you know, finding his father or something like that. I can't remember. But he was not a star yet, you know, not really. Though there were murmurs in Hollywood about this new talent, but the masses didn't really know who he was yet. Very few people, except for Robin Harris. Robin Harris was already quite known by then, of course, for comedy. He was well known. The Turturro brothers, especially John, was starting a career, but he was still doing smaller projects. Giancarlo, Broadway, Wesley Snipes, Broadway. Everybody was new. I wasn't the first, you know, surrounded by all these stars. I didn't know who any of these people were. So we were more peers than okay, thank you. Than you know, like, wow, I can't believe I'm working with Denzel Washington. I didn't know who Denzel Washington was. Oh, that's right. He did this movie. I can't remember what the actual film was called. I went to New York as a student and auditioned for my very first film as kind of like just an exercise. It wasn't a real audition because I was still in school. It was called Finding Moppy. I was with Robert Townsend, and I can't remember what the title was. It was in the Jamaican movie. It was supposed to be Jamaica.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I'd heard of him because of that, because when I auditioned for it, they were like, this guy named Denzel Washington is the male lead. I was like, oh, that's cool. With Robert Townsend, who I'd heard of. I was like, oh, I know about him. But none of these people we were all babies. We were all just starting to shine. And so it wasn't like I was surrounded by people that I was in awe of. I'd watched by then, though I wasn't a big movie watcher, I dated a guy who was, and he's who introduced me to She's Gotta Have It and School Days. I didn't go see Do the Right Thing. I was living in New York already by the time the movie came out. And actually, when I was auditioning for Mo Better, I was going to see the movie over and over and over again. I was studying it because I was auditioning. It was all during my audition time that I was watching that movie. Because I'm auditioning for a film that's a completely new medium. And I really didn't know what I was doing. Although by then I'd had multiple casting directors tell me, you would be a phenomenal film actress. I didn't know what that meant. I really didn't understand the differentiation at the time because I'd never studied film acting. I'd done one commercial class. So I was learning on my feet, but I think I was amongst a lot of people that were learning on their feet.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I think Denzel, that was his first real starring role. I mean, he had a couple of great characters, but he wasn't like this big star, big studio film thing until this point was his first real sex symbol shining moment where he got to really become this massive star and the start of this massive star. So I just was on a learning curve with everybody else. And it was really a learning curve because up to then I'd always worked on stage where I had real concrete direction. And this was my first experience of, you know, really coming up with my own characterization and coming up with most of the lines because we improv'd everything and Spike just wrote down what we said when we rehearsed. So and during the entire process of auditioning, Spike was creating the character through me. He would call me, ask me questions, and he would come up with who she was based on the things that I shared with him even before I had the role. So it was exciting because it was like falling into this life that I never expected to have. Being surrounded by people that I never expected to be these big stars. And I've
Yeah.
never been a starstruck person in my life. I don't know. I guess it was the way I was taught that we are all stars in our own right. And so I never had those kind of feelings about people. But looking back, it's pretty miraculous how it all happened.
Yeah. Look, let's give a round of applause for you working with all those big hitters before they even started. Like seriously. Like I'm sitting there just picturing everyone that you like. She said Denzel, Wesley, all these people, and I'm like, damn, man, who would have known? And the name of that movie, that they were in, it was called The Mighty Quinn.
Yes, that's what it was, The Mighty Quinn.
Yes, The Mighty
But it
Quinn.
wasn't called that when I auditioned for it. When I auditioned for it, they were using the title Finding Moppy. And then later when it came out and I heard of it, I was like, oh, that was that movie, Finding Moppy. But it became The Mighty Quinn. And oftentimes, just like with Mo Better, it was not called Mo Better, it was called Love Supreme, but John Coltrane's estate wouldn't allow us to use that title because it was referring to the song Love Supreme. So Mo Better became the title that, maybe a year after we made it, we realized what the name was going to be. So it's a process and you just never know what you're a part of that's going to hit, what that's not going to hit. And I mean, it was my very first movie. So I certainly had no idea it was going to do what it did. I wasn't, to be honest, completely prepared. I was prepared for the creative, artistic side of things, but I wasn't prepared for how it's going to change my life and how, I was going to have to deal with some parts of the world that I'd never met before. I was a very innocent church girl, and not only am I playing a very adult character and showing body parts when no man had ever seen them. Um, now I'm dealing with circumstances and dark things. So it was quite a thrust into a lot of newness, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That's one thing I will say about a Spike Lee movie. Like you will see some body parts in that man's movies. That's what I will say.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and that was before it was really a thing
yeah,
in mainstream, in mainstream films with Black people because we had this false narrative that the body is, the sexual act is something bad, and I think that movie kind of broke the paralysis of that. I
yeah,
remember the very first audition I went into, when I was talking to the casting director, she warned me. She said there was nudity, and I was like, nudity? What? And she told me what parts would be seen, and so I called my grandfather, who's my pastor and mentor, and asked him like, "Hey, there's nudity in this movie I'm auditioning for," and my grandfather was like, "Are you an actress?" I said, I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you think it's gratuitous?" I said, "Well, I really don't know, but the storyline doesn't seem to lend itself to that." Meaning, for those who might not know that word, that probably most people do. But if you don't know that word, it means, is it necessary? Yes, it was definitely necessary for that storyline. I think it strengthened the storyline instead of weakened it. So he was like, "Well, this is what you say you want to do, so do it." And I was like, "Okay, yeah."
yeah. That's That's an experience right there. And like I said, I don't. To me, one of the best feelings in the world is when you don't know something is going to be bigger than what it is, because you didn't expect it. But when it ended up being as big as it, you can look back like, wow, it feels good to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
I usually have good instincts about things. You know, that one I just didn't know the world at all, so it was completely over my head. But the next film I did, I knew, I knew it was special, and I I didn't know how special it would become. I mean, it was in no way near the level of Mo Better when it came to exposure at the time, but it was so critically acclaimed. It was like on most critique people that critique movies, most of their number one for most of the movies, you know, for the movies of the year. Cisco, Gene Cisco and Roger Ebert made it their number one movie of the year, and all these other critics gave it the number one movie of the year. And that one, I was like, by then I kind of figured out the temperature of Hollywood, and though that movie was an independent film and very, very, very different than anything else at the time, now it would be like soft. But at the time, it was a super one false move. It was a super, super
Yes.
gritty film that I mean, there were actresses that turned down the role because of the violence in it. But I could tell when I read it, I was like, this is special. This is going to do well. And once, you know, I give the credit to Roger Ebert for seeing it, and for the lady producer, the woman producer on the movie, she believed in it when others didn't. And she kind of snuck it into this film festival, and Roger Ebert saw it and was like, this is amazing. And because of his review, we all of a sudden we had exposure. Never the exposure of the big studio film, but it's definitely a lot of people's favorite movie.
Yeah, that movie right there. Because I remember I saw that when I was little as well. And
Which is
that's
crazy to
actually,
me. What were your parents doing?
I mean, this is what it was. The thing is with me, I couldn't watch a lot of those movies by myself. I had to watch it with them because, like I said, Boys in the
Mhm.
Hood came out in '91.
Right,
I was like 6, and I got to watch that. Now, when it came to like the sex scenes and stuff, like I would have to leave the room,
right.
stuff like that. But I got to see Ricky get shot. But okay, but that actually goes into my next question
Mhm,
because, as you said, you did do the movie One False Move. Now, this, I got to be completely honest with you. I did
mhm.
not know this. You were also married to Billy Bob Thornton, correct?
Not when we shot the film. I did not marry him until after the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Like,
When I
well
seen
after the
that,
movie. Yeah, we weren't together during the filming of that, but we met, and he's the one that encouraged me to move to Los Angeles because I lived in New York at the time, and he was like, if you want to do independent film, this is where you do independent film.
yeah,
And so I moved to LA based on his encouragement, and a relationship ensued. Didn't last long, um, but um, but he was, you know, I have uh, good feelings for him. He's got his issues. So I'm not gonna lie, but I really enjoy working with him. He's certainly one of the best writers to me in show business. He's a phenomenal writer. He's a very good actor, and he's a great director. He wasn't a great husband, but I think at his spirit level, he's a pure soul. He's a good person. He just, you know, what life does to people.
he obviously loves sisters.
Yeah, I don't know. I was his fourth wife, so you
Oh,
know, and I don't know. I know the one before me and the couple after me. I don't know that any of them were black. I don't know. I don't know like I said, I knew the one before, she was white. And then the two after, it was Pietra, who was European, and then Angelina after her. And then he had a couple more after that. So, you know.
Really. That's why I was like, when I seen that, I was like, oh dang, because I remember Billy Bob Thornton when I was younger in certain movies, but I really didn't
Mhm.
pay attention to him more until he started doing comedy. Like when he switched over to
Mhm.
Bad Santa, I was like, oh shit,
Mhm.
this dude is actually funny. But
Yeah, it was funny. My niece said to me the other day, she goes, "I she calls me Aunt Cece. She said, Aunt Cece, I didn't know you were married to Bad Santa. I said, yeah, a long time ago, way before Bad Santa was a thing.
man,
Mhm.
and it's funny because this next question it actually pertains to at the beginning of the show about your name and how you spell it. So, and I
Mhm.
found
Mhm.
this real interesting when I read about it. So, for people that don't know,
Mhm.
your fans, explain to them the reason why you changed your name from Cynda Williams from Cindy to Cynda.
Yeah, I was born Cindy, which was very difficult growing up in the South Side of Chicago. It was hard enough being light skinned and mulatto, and then add to that my name being Cindy. That was, but the funny thing is, my mom didn't name me that. My dad did. I don't know where the name came from, but so I was never really fond of the name Cindy because it had a negative connotation for me because of my childhood, Cindy Brady, the white girl, all this kind of
Oh
stuff.
wow.
So I was never really fond of the name because after my cousin that was born a month before me, his name was Richard, and then there was me, and then all my other relatives, my cousins, my siblings, all have these exotic, awesome names. So I was like, how did I get a Cindy? How'd that happen to me? So I always knew that if I was going to be a professional, I wanted to change it. But then also, I did enough research to understand I was going to have to change it because of Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so in to be in a union, you can't share the exact same name with someone that's already working because mail gets mixed up and her money starts coming to me, which would have been nice, and my money starts going to her, and she would have been like, what these pennies about? So they have to give you you have to have at least one letter, something has to be different in your name. And so I was going back and forth about what my name was going to be. And my sister, one of my sister's name was Monica, and my other sister's name was Sadaka. And I got a couple more later, but those were Monica and Sadaka. And I like the sound at the end. So I was like, Sendaka? I'm like, that just sounds like too much. Cinda, that's all right. And then I was visiting a friend of mine who I loved her mom, and her mom was calling me Cinda. And I was like, Lisa, why'd your mama calling me Cinda? She goes, she's not. I said, no, she is. She's calling me Cinda. She goes, I don't know, ask her. So, it was early in the morning. She was making pancakes. So I went in there and I was like, hey, um, are you calling me Cinda? And she said, yes. I said, why? She said, because Cindy is such a cute name and you're not cute. You're beautiful. You're a pretty girl.
Right.
Cinda is a pretty name. And so I had told no one about that thought. So to me, that was like, okay, God just told me through my friend's mom, that's my name. And so that's where I went.
Man, and that's why I asked that question because
Mhm.
it was real interesting because I was like, okay, yeah, that is an old girl from Laverne and Shirley because that show was
Mhm, mhm.
obviously way before my time, but just the
Exactly. Yeah.
fact I know who that actor is, because that was a very famous show. So I just
Mhm.
really, and I'm pretty sure not too many of your fans like knew that story. So that's why I was like,
Yeah,
let me.
yeah, I doubt it. And because most of my fans have never heard of her. Well, the ones my age did, because we all watched Laverne and Shirley growing up. But the ones, 40s and down, they never heard of Cindy Williams. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
I'm glad. So one thing about your life that I found that was very interesting, it goes along with this question. Now, you had a brief stint in the music industry in 1990 with an appearance on the soundtrack of Mo Better Blues. It was a song called Harlem Blues,
Hmm.
and the song was popular. It reached that number 9 on the R&B charts on November 17th, 1990. And with the success of that single, you lined up a deal with Sony, and they wanted to produce an album. If am I not mistaken?
Yeah, and that was before the release of the song. We had already talked about them producing an album for me. And actually, the song actually went to #1 on the R&B chart. So it did very well. But when I started working on the music, I had multiple things happening at the same time. Some of the things I could talk about and some of the things I won't. But let's just say that it was a lot of complex wheeling and dealing happening that I wasn't appreciative of. And plus they were trying to push me towards singing jazz. And Mo Better Blues I'd never listened to jazz in my life before that movie. I was from the gospel world, musical theater, some pop stuff, and some like the most well-known R&B stuff. But I mainly was singing gospel and musical theater. So the fact that they wanted me to be a jazz singer, I couldn't get with that because I was 23 years old. I was like, that's old people music. Old people sing that. I don't want to sing that music. Plus, I was very political and very, very much into folk rock kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, the music that I wrote, because I was in several bands, the music that I wrote was more along the lines of an Alanis Morissette, if you've ever heard of her, before, 10 years before her. I was doing music, similar vibe, alternative rock, folk rock, that music that said something. I wanted, if I was going to sing, I wanted to sing to change hearts and minds, not to move people into the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Or to cry over lost love. So what I sang, the lyrics I sang were very important to me. I'm a storyteller at heart. And I'm a person that comes from a service background and wants to serve people. And I felt like there was plenty of music about lust in the world, and I didn't want to participate in that. And I think I was a little hard-headed about it. Plus, music business, as a lot of people are realizing now, is a very dark, dark business, as is Hollywood. But the music seemed to be, from my experience, far darker and dangerous. And like I said, I was a church girl. I was not trying to get caught up in that world. And I was a very shy person, very quiet person. You would never know it now, or you would never know it back then when I'm on the stage or doing my thing. But most of the time I was in a corner reading a book. I was always by myself. I was very shy, didn't do drugs, barely drank. I started drinking when I was 24, a little bit. So it just wasn't my vibe. And I always said to myself, if I'm never a star for music, it doesn't matter, just as long as I don't stop singing. And I've never stopped singing. And I'm comfortable with that.
Nice. Yeah, because I really found that real interesting. Like, cause I was like, I read when I was reading, I was like, oh, I didn't know this about her. She had her music popping off. And I was just curious why it didn't go through. But for the fact that you still have passion for singing and music, that's a good thing. So I'm glad that's still working out for you.
Yeah, I honestly, after COVID, because before COVID, I did like tons and tons of jazz, pure jazz shows. That was the main thing people wanted from me. And so that's what I gave them. I did have my own bands for a while in LA. But at the time, the studios, they wanted jazz. That's all they wanted from me. They would come and hear me sing, see me, and not know it was me because I don't look like Clark Benacourt. And they were like, oh my God, we got to talk. Let's talk. But where's Cynda? When is Cynda coming out? And I'm like, they don't even know who I am. So it just wasn't meant to be. But it's honestly in the last year or so, for some reason, I don't know why, all this music stuff has been coming towards me. So there might be some stuff coming out because now it's a different world. You don't have to go through the studio system. You don't have to get caught up in the BS to actually get music out there. You know, if it's heard or not, that's another thing. But I'm working with several artists that are producers that are some interesting things are coming up. So we'll see.
Nice, nice. So as we getting ready to wind down, this question right here, I had to ask this question because now that I'm older, you were in another movie that it turned out to be a cult classic. But that's when I really like when I noticed it was you're like, oh, I'm like, damn, I'm old. I'm like, oh, she is still banging. You were in a movie with Bokeem Woodbine, who was a phenomenal, underrated actor. And the name of that movie was called Caught Up. It came out in 1998. And the role that you played in there, I was like, OMG, because mind you, I was 13. So just seeing you now at 13, and it consists of seeing you when I was 6, I was like, oh my goodness, she was still a fox. But that movie right there, it was so it was so hood and like really like low budget, but at the same time it had a cult following and it had a lot of major stars in there too, like Clifton Powell, LL Cool J, Snoop Dogg, Tony Todd, God rest his soul, Michael Clark Duncan, right, God rest his soul. So I just have to know, like, what was the experience like working on that
Well, that movie was very like a very different experience for me. Up until that point, I had done several things and I'd had a lot of bad experiences. So I was kind of to the point where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be working with any more Black male directors because I've had some really hard situations. And while I've enjoyed them as directors, personally, it's been difficult. And so when my agent reached out to me about Caught Up, they said you meet the director, and I was like, okay, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have a script, and I met this guy. He was a Black director, but immediately as soon as I met him, I felt at ease. I was like, this guy is different. This is different. This guy is cool. And so he was nervous. It was his first movie that he'd ever directed. He had written a lot of stuff, and known as a writer. But at that point, this was his directorial debut. And he told me in that meeting, he said, yeah, when I wrote the script and I took it to my agents, in it, the description of the character was someone like Cynda Williams. And they told him, why not Cynda Williams? And so he goes, you think she would do this? And he's like, yeah, let's try. So it was written with me in mind. And even though he didn't think he could get me at that point, which is hilarious. But so I was cast before anyone else. So I got to really participate in the casting of it. Not all of it, not all the minutia, not, not the cattle call kind of stuff. But like when they got down to the main characters, I was a part of that casting. I had a different choice for the lead, although I'm glad they went with Denzel considering the type of movie, because I really didn't understand that he was going. Darren Scott is his name. He was going for a hood movie. It wasn't that low budget. It was a big studio movie. This was no low budget independent. This was a studio. But he wanted to make kind of a spoof of a hood movie. So yeah, so he wanted it really big and over the top. Because he ended up going on and doing spoofs on horror films kind of stuff and really over the top kind of things. And so they went with Bokeem because he had the energy that they wanted. They wanted that real hardcore, because Bokeem was nothing like the character, nothing like most of the characters that he used to play. He was a very middle class youngster, rock and roll guitarist who never even had an intention of acting, fell into it accidentally. He wanted a tattoo and his mom was like, I ain't paying for no tattoo. You better get a job. So he went to become an extra for a movie and they saw him in line, they were like, oh my God, he looks like what we want. And they pull him out of the line, he got the lead role. That's how he started acting. It wasn't the role that did. Just like me, I didn't know I was going to do movies. He didn't know he was going to do movies. And he just wanted to do music. But everybody that I met in it was fabulous. The crew, the production team, the writer director treated me with such respect. And that had not been my experience up till then. I hadn't had a lot of that. So it was not the movie that I thought it was going to be. When I saw it, I was like, huh? I was very confused because I honestly, I took it more seriously than they did. And I didn't know it was supposed to be kind of a spoof on hood films. So it wasn't my favorite film for a while. But people loved it. I have as many fans for Caught Up, that's their favorite movie, as One False Move. Those people that have One False Move is their favorite, and Mo Better Blues, same.
Caught Up had a dope soundtrack too. I remember, like I said, man, that movie it was hood, but it had a cult following because I remember at the time when it came out, like me and my homies, a lot of us we saw it, like we watched it, and it had a dope soundtrack. So just for the fact that you were a part of that movie, it really made it like what it was because I believe what you said when you say that movie. Well, as far as Bokeem, he was nothing like that because when you like watch a lot of his movies, man, you could tell like Bokeem is like really talented at what he does, and hopefully in the future, man, I can get an interview with him because I love to have a talk with that brother. But yeah, I'm glad that you got to experience that and have a good experience with that movie as far as you taking it serious.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I take everything serious.
And then Clifton Powell, man, that his character in there, oh my goodness, he started off as his homeboy, but he was really like an undercover cop. And then when it's just something about Clifton when he be cussing, man, it is hilarious, man. Like that dude, he really just, but you believe him though. Like when he like it'd be funny, but you believe him. That's why when he played the role Pinky, man, he was the perfect dude for that role. So again, man, like if all you youngins out there, y'all gotta do y'all history and y'all homework, man, because the '90s had a lot of movies that didn't hit box office, but it was a lot of cult classics, and that just shows you that it was a lot of talented black actors in the '90s that don't get the shine that they need that they should now. That's why when I reached out to you, I was like so happy when you agreed to this.
Well, I'm glad to have been here. I started coughing. Woo!
Yeah, I seen you over there. That's why I had to make sure you was okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I think this was a good moment. I really felt like you opened up and let the world know a little bit more about you, especially stuff that you didn't know, because I know I didn't know a whole bunch. So you said you was working with some artists and some producers. So as we kick off 2026, what do we have to look forward to from Cynda Williams for the rest of the year?
Oh, man, it's so much stuff. First of all, I have my own shows, my own platforms. I have a live show, live and direct with Sin and Friends, and that is very fun for me. I also am a writer. I write scripts for other people. And so a lot of stuff is getting pitched. We'll see what happens. I'm still acting. I'm attached to quite a few things, but you never know when things are going to happen. But I have something I'm very excited coming up. It's a short film series that I'm not going to mention the title yet because I don't know if they want me to. So it's a phenomenal, exciting piece that I'm doing with a guy named Jay Davis in Chicago. I have a docuseries coming out. It's about music. musicians start
Nice.
shooting the first season at the end of this month. So I'm excited about that. It's about unsung musicians that are out there working their tail off, still working regular jobs, but they're phenomenal at what they do. And we're starting in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where we're going to do the first season there. And then I'm in a band called Mother's Milk, which I'm having a lot of fun with because it's not a lot of pressure. I do some of the lead singing, but most of it's done by this woman named Queen Kiana, who is phenomenal. And literally, there's so many things that I could say. It's a little overwhelming for me. So just follow me on Instagram at Cynda Will, or I'm also on Facebook under that name and others. I got a couple of pages on there, and then on TikTok, Cynda Williams 615. And I'm really starting to get going on YouTube, Cynda Williams 1966. I need to have all one thing, it'll be easier, but it is what it is. If you look me up, you'll find me.
Well, I know I did, and I found out a whole lot. So with that being said, Miss Cynda Williams, did you have a good moment with the Messiah?
I sure did. I have another Messiah friend. I was cracking up when I saw your name with the Messiah. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I got a Messiah is. I think we all have a little bit of the Messiah in us.
Yes. It was just something I adapted later in years, but I really want to thank you for coming out. Like, this has been an amazing episode. You are very talented. You are very tapped in with the culture. I watch your page. I watch your stories. I've been a fan. Like I said, I've been a fan since I was 6, obviously, because I remember you. So at the age of 40, for you to come on my platform and then seeing that you still out here doing your thing, I really want to thank you. So again, this has been another moment with the Messiah. Yours truly, Mr. Vega, the one and only, and my guest, the one and only, Cynda Williams. Say bye to the people, Queen.
Bye. Thank you. God bless you all. And thank you, Mr. Vega. I appreciate you. Thank you.
This has been another edition. You already know, baby. We out. Hey.
Never caught in the moment, on my toes for the right now. My nigga, I'm focused, never follow the crowd. Let me throw on my crown. And motherfucker, you address me as such, cause I'm king. And put respect on my name like Brian Williams, And if you lucky, might have mercy, just might keep your neck. Cause heads roll for less. If playing me is your goal, I'm Shaquille at the net. Niggas know I'm a problem, tatted hope on my chest. Yeah. Look, I was tired of playing Clark Kent, hiding my potential, knowing that I was God sent, knew that I was different when nobody saw my vision, put that work in myself and then ran ahead.